I'm getting ready to do one of my famous or infamous point of view builds. I thought it would be interesting to make a video about how I do those. There's a lot more to it than a lot of people think. First of all, I do all the filming on this little camera right here, and it goes in this little holder that I made right here, and this, I hold this in my mouth like this. So the camera goes here and that goes there. So I can't speak when I'm talking. Actually, all of the audio from this camera can't be used also because I'm steadily breathing into the microphones which are up on top here. So you get a lot of nose whistling right into the microphones, like heavy breathing. So the heavy breathing that you hear during the finished video is actually me doing that afterwards. I sit down and I watch it and I heavy breathe along with it, because a lot of the footage that you see has been sped up quite a bit. The camera, I have the settings on the camera on this one has a movie setting, and I've got that set to shutter priority. I'm filming this in 60 frames per second, so I've got the shutter set to 125. I also got the ISO set to auto. Also, the focus on this camera is set to continuous autofocus, which is pretty good on this camera, especially with that kind of stuff. If I've got it set to the center, so when you're pointed right at the object, it'll focus right on that, and it snaps in pretty good. It doesn't drift, especially out here in the bright sunlight. I've got the white balance set to cloudy, actually. I could either set it to auto, but then you get differences. Not a big deal for this kind of thing, but you get more consistent footage when you put it on a setting. I could also do a custom white balance, but cloudy does a good look. It makes it a little bit warm. It doesn't make the whites as blue as auto does. In this one, I'm going to be cutting this big chunk of hard maple into a slab that will be a live edge cutting board. And I took this from out front with the hand truck down there. Man, is this heavy. This has to be at least 500 pounds because I could barely tilt it up onto this. So my monster has, you know, dirty hands. And you can see my hands, they're really clean because I washed them, but supposedly he doesn't. So the way I make them dirty is I grab some stuff like this that is burned, and it's got all kinds of soot on it, and then I just rub that in, and that makes them authentically dirty looking. Now sound, that's the most inconvenient part of the video for this, because I have to record the sound separately. Like I explained, I'll be breathing too much into the camera, so got to set up a separate mic and a separate recorder to catch the sounds of the work going on. And they have to be far enough away not to catch any of my, you know, heavy breathing, because I'll be, you know, adding that in afterwards. So that is an issue, because sometimes I forget to turn on the microphone. Other times I have to come out and especially record something like in the Shuriken one. You know, when I tossed the can up and it landed on the ground, I didn't have a sound for that landing on the ground, so I had to come out and record that. It took like 4 times to get that right. The same thing for the sledgehammer when I threw that down. Those things make a distinctive sound, and you know what they're called, Foley, in the movie business. So I got great respect for those guys that make those sounds, that's for sure. Okay, I think I've got all my gear together. I got the camera for the mouth. I've got the saw ready to use. The monster comes out of the shed where he lives. Unfortunately, it's really jammed up inside there. I want to get a little bit, you know, I want to get one shot of him looking out the window and focusing in on that stump over there that I just put up on top of that. Then I'm going to cut out into the slab. But there's no standing room in there, so I probably got 10 minutes of cleaning up in there to make that happen. The other thing about the recording rig here is that it can't be anywhere that's in the picture. Like when I'm coming from the shed and going across, I shouldn't be able to see this thing set up to. So I'll have to make a break somewhere. Probably when I reach the stump over there, I'll stop, move the thing in, and then start again. See, speaking of Foley, here's a pretty cool sound. Yeah. Okay, shed is tied out enough that I can get through it. I need to have the saw though. So I'll come to here and I'll make a cut here. I'll grab the saw and then I'll, you know, it appears in my hands like magic and I'm walking across and I'm looking down at the saw. Too bad it says that on there though. I may actually get some masking tape and cover that up. Not that I'm, you know, crazy about, you know, advertising for companies and whatnot without getting paid for it, but I mean that's pretty obvious and blatant right there. So I'll just mask that over with masking tape, or I may just paint it with black paint. In fact, it'd be nice if I had some I-built sticker or something to put on there. Maybe I'll have to order some. So the first setup for the microphone here, I've got to position it so that I can't see it when I'm looking at the window, and also it has to be out of the frame, or mostly out of the frame when I come out. That first step, it's got to pick up the sounds that I make inside the shed so that, you know, I can dub that in afterwards. Okay, well, stupidly I gotta do it again because this thing's in the picture. Have to go a little bit more over here. I ended up pointing right at the block. Next I'm going to look down and see the chainsaw in my hand, so I got to pick that up and have it here when I go with the next one. The microphone is recording again for some stupid reason. It's not supposed to be. I think that I can move that, the face this way. It needs to get my footsteps mainly. Turn this on, press record. Okay, I got the saw over there, but now I need to take this block of wood over there and put it on top so I can mark the lines that I need to cut. So I think that's just going to appear in my hand, and I'll drop it in after I move the saw just a little bit. You got to make this stuff so it illustrates what you're doing, but not get too bogged down in the fine details, because it's really not about that. Okay, I think halfway, or not halfway, when I get close here, the chainsaw will change into the board and I'll plunk that down like a real smooth cut. Marker. Just gotta make sure that this is actually in the right spot. I think that's it. That clears the worst of it. That might have been a pretty limp throw, so I'm going to try that again. That's better. No, it's too loud with the mic in that close, so I'll have to move that back. So yeah, once again, I don't have to show the whole cutting. Also, it's very difficult to concentrate on how straight the cut's going when you're doing this. This will give me a better opportunity. I'll do the same. I'll go right down to the bottom, make the final cut from the other side over there, drop the slab off the side. I'm ready to make the final cut, but I want it to fall right, so I'm going to move this one over here a little bit. I still want to be able to see it. Actually, it'd be nice if this came down and kind of landed on that too. Anyway, not a bad looking piece at all. I bring that over there. I've got the Walking Dead weapon build thing over there, so I think I'm going to make that fly through the air, slow motion type thing, and then plunge into the ground. That could take several tries to get that right though. First attempt wasn't a good stick in. Try again. You know what, that's gonna have to do it. Or actually I can do it in two parts, the arc, and then I'll pick out one of the better ones, and then when it plunges in, okay, I'm going to do the bulk of the planing on this with my electric plane here, and then I'll finish it up with a little bit with the hand plane. No sense getting this too flat for now because it's going to, you know, cup and warp as it dries anyway. So just want to get it relatively flat, relatively parallel with the other side as well. So this is the best way to do that. If you look at this, you might be wondering what's all over it. That's actually body filler. Back in my day job, I had that in the back of the truck, sitting in there, and then you take the body filler, the can of it, and put it in there. I guess the lid was not tight enough, and it leaked over the entire thing, and it was completely covered. So I scraped off as much as I could, but didn't get it all, and it's hardened up now without the hardener. That stuff will harden after a good long time. That is. Anyway, a little bit more protection for the machine here with that. Okay, that's probably enough of that on this side. I'll go ahead and get the rest of it relatively flat, and then I can flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. I'll get a little bit of that with that, but then I'll get, when I switch over to the hand plane, I'll get quite a bit of that. As you can see, this is doing a good job. There's a good gouge here that I'm going to have to work on, but it's getting there. Looks like there's ants coming out of the inclusion here. Already eaten a couple. I'm down to the point where I can use the hand plane, but I think that my monster won't have enough patience for the hand plane and will try it a few swipes, get frustrated with it, and then pitch it aside, and then start using this thing again, and call this rough surface here good enough for him. Just realized that the camera is pointing this way, so I can't do that. I have to move everything. Okay, well, this thing is heavy. This has got to be 30 pounds, 40 pounds at least. I'm going to finish planing it. Then I may do some sanding on it too, just to get it really smooth looking for the pictures. But as for using this for cutting board, I don't think I will. By and large, I really don't like wooden cutting boards, actually. I think the plastic are a lot better. You take the plastic, you put it in the dishwasher. It doesn't swell up, it doesn't crack apart. There's no maintenance involved. There's no glamour either, but you know what? Stuff you do in the kitchen is more about utility anyway. But I will use it for something. It's a good hunk of wood, nice and fairly clear. It's got a couple of defects, but I'm sure I can find something to do with it. I'm going to clean this stuff up now. I've got one thing I need to do with this before I can put it away. I'm going to coat both ends of this with silicone to keep it from drying out too rapidly and cracking. And then I guess I'll put it in the shed and let it dry out in there. And you may be seeing this in a year or two. Who knows? Another way is to take it and put it in the oven, but there's still ants coming out of it, so I don't want to have an ant infestation in my kitchen. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.